Guys, I'm very excited today. It's my great pleasure to pick the brains and the expertise of one of our present-day experts for you on the topic of dating and hypnosis. I'm going to be talking to him and interviewing him on some of the most popular questions the guys have to ask about dating, attraction, and taking it from his perspective. His name is Steve G. Jones, and he's an expert in hypnotherapy. He's a board-certified clinical hypnotherapist. He's been practicing hypnotherapy since the 1980s. And he's the author of over 22 books on hypnotherapy. You can tell he's got credits galore here. He's the National Guild of Hypnotists. He's on the American Board of Hypnotherapy. He's president of the American Alliance of Hypnotists. Steve also treats clients for a variety of conditions, among them being things like weight loss, anxiety, smoking cessation, test taking, various phobias, nail biting, road rage, anger management. And this is where I feel like it's going to come in very interesting for a lot of guys in terms of overcoming a lot of their inner obstacles and maybe some of their inner game hurdles regarding dating and attraction. And Steve also has worked with Hollywood actors, writers, directors, and producers. So we're talking about a top-notch expert here. His website is Better Living with Hypnosis. That's betterlivingwithhypnosis.com. Steve also has a bachelor's in psychology, a master's in education, and a doctorate in education. So he's definitely coming with a lot of accolades and a lot of educational background. So we've been lucky enough to get hold of Steve today at his office. I had to track him down, but we finally got hold of him in his office today. So we're going to just do a quick heart-to-heart on the phone. We're going to do a garage style here, and we're going to get some really good information from him. Steve, how you doing today, man? It's good to have you here.
Great, Carlos. Thanks. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. Hey, let's dig into some of the meat of this and get right down to talking about dating and attraction and bringing some of your expertise to the fore here. I've had a lot of years and a lot of experience as a life coach out there, helping guys to take control over their lives and improve their confidence. And there's probably nothing more important to how guys feel about their lives than their feeling of confidence. How important overall is building self-confidence in dating?
Well, Carlos, I feel that confidence is what everything starts with. In fact, with confidence, you can do anything, and without it, you can't do anything at all. Because when you think about it, even a simple decision like getting up in the morning, you have to be confident that the floor is solid, that when you put your feet down, it will be okay. And when you take those first few steps, it will be okay. So we often overlook the idea of how important confidence is, not only in dating, but in every single thing that we do. So the more confident we are, the more things we can do. And it's no different in our real lives than when we look at dating. The more confident we are, the more things we can do in dating. So, for example, just looking at the very basic steps, we would never approach a woman. As guys, we would never even consider approaching a woman if we didn't have confidence, if we didn't believe in ourselves and believe that when we walk over there and when we talk to her, it's going to be okay. We would just say, oh, wait a minute, I just don't think that I'll do that. I think that I'll just stay over here and continue doing whatever it is I'm doing because I'm not feeling confident enough to do that. That's at the very basic level. And then as we move through the dating progression, as we get from the initial talking to the person to who knows what it'll lead to, let's say perhaps a wedding, we have to be confident every step of the way if we're going to have any sort of relationship, whether your idea is a short-term relationship or a long-term relationship. Confidence comes into play every step of the way.
Steve, why don't you give us a little bit more explanation? Can you give us a little bit more background on that?
Well, Carlos, when I have a client come to me and he says to me, you know what, Steve, I am at the top of my game in business. I'm at the top of my game in every aspect of my life. Money's not a problem. Having fun's not a problem. I'm just not attracting the person to me into my life who I want to have there. It's the woman problem. She's just not there. And how do I attract her? And what I realized in a lot of these cases is that I'm dealing with a person who's confident in every aspect of his life except when it comes to women. So what I have to do then as a hypnotherapist is translate that power that person has in every other arena and bring it into the arena of women. Because when you bring something that powerful, let's say this person's multimillionaire, which in many cases is the case, yet there's no woman in their lives. They just have a void there because they feel that that's something different. They feel that they can accomplish all of these things, but getting that special woman is just not going to happen. As a hypnotherapist, to give you a specific example, what I like to do is install an anchor for the person. So let's say we have a person who's very confident in a business setting. I will have him imagine himself, and the listeners can do this now. Just have yourself, imagine yourself in that situation where you're confident, whatever it may be. But don't make it dating. Make it something that you're confident in outside of dating, whether it's sports or fishing, or maybe you're really good at relaxing, or maybe you're really good at business, whatever it is for you. Maybe you're a pilot. Who knows? But think of something that you do that makes you very confident. Just imagine that now. Imagine yourself there now. And then what I'll have them do is make that picture in their mind even brighter, even more powerful. So go ahead and imagine that being more real now. And all you're doing is imagining yourself doing whatever it is you do that makes you feel powerful, whether it's running your business, flying an airplane, fishing, whatever it is that you do really well that you feel confident in. Make that scene really real for yourself right now in your mind. That's right. Turn up the sights, the sounds, the smells, the tastes. Whatever senses can be involved, go ahead and turn them up right now. Make them very real for you. Okay, and turn them up even more now. That's right. Just feel how good it feels to be you in that moment, doing that thing that you do that makes you feel good about yourself. All right, now really feel it. Really feel it now. Really intensify it. Can you tune into that, Carlos?
Yeah, definitely.
You feel that? Yeah, let it surge through you. That's right. And listeners, let it surge through you. I'm doing the same thing. I'm letting it surge through me. I want you to turn it up, whatever it is for you. That's right. Make it even more powerful. Make it 10 times more real for you right now. Turn up the sights, the sounds, the smells, the tastes. You can see things more clearly. You can hear them more clearly. You can feel them more clearly. How your clothes feel. How does the air feel when you put yourself back in that situation? What's the temperature? More importantly, how do you feel? Feel those good feelings surging through you. All right. Now, right now, what I want you to do is make the OK sign with your right hand. Touch the tip of your right index finger to the tip of your right thumb and say power. That's right. Now, what have we done? You can go ahead and open up your hand now. What have we done? We've installed an anchor. So that's what I like to do, Carlos. I like to work with my clients and install an anchor so they have that next time they go into a dating situation. So they think they're a fish out of water. They think, oh, my goodness, I'm great at business, but a dating situation, no way. I go into a dating situation, I feel off center. I feel out of place. Well, all they have to do then is make the OK sign with their right hand and say the word power. That immediately puts them into touch with that power that they have from that other situation. So they can use that power from the other situation in a dating situation and feel confident.
And Steve, does this take, I found the effects were immediate on that, but I'm wondering about long term. Does the guy have to repeat this several times for it to really ingrain itself, or is it going to be pretty much long-standing? How is the technique in terms of keeping it with you all the time?
Okay, great question. You have to do maintenance on this. Just like when you have a piano and you tune it, it may go out of tune, or guitar. I understand you're a musician. Is that right, Carlos?
Absolutely. Love playing guitar for over 20 years.
Okay, great. So you know that guitar every now and then goes out of tune.
Oh, yeah.
And, in fact, the more you play it, the faster it goes out of tune. Okay, so what you want to do is if you're using this technique on a regular basis, let's say you're going into a dating situation, you're firing it off. Oh, my gosh, I don't feel confident. I'm going to fire it off. Well, if you're doing that on a regular basis, it's going to lose its effectiveness. So your question was an outstanding one. It's going to lose its effectiveness. You need to, just like that guitar that you're playing a lot, you need to tune it up. Well, this technique, you need to redo it.
Steve, is there any way to magnify this, maybe even amplify it a bit so it's more powerful over a long period of time?
Absolutely. Another great question. The way to do that, to make this even more powerful, and now we can think of it like a battery instead of a musical instrument. Let's think of it like a battery. We've installed this power. We've given you this battery full of power, but it's only got a limited amount of power. Why not give it more power, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times the power so it'll last longer? Great question, and here's the answer. The way we do that is through a technique that we call stacking anchors. So whereas I just had you go through a technique and imagine yourself in a situation and go ahead and install an anchor, you can do that with a number of situations. So the way you would do that is imagine yourself in situation number one where you feel powerful. Then you go ahead and install the anchor by making the OK sign, saying power. Then you imagine yourself in the next situation, something completely different, yet a situation in which you feel powerful. Then you go ahead and install it again the same way, making the OK sign, saying the word power. And then you do it the third time and fourth time and fifth time. Make it very powerful. That way you've got a lot of power. Now, every time you go into the dating situation and you're making the OK sign, saying power, you're drawing on all 5 of those situations, and they're all helping you. You're feeling the power that you felt in every one of those situations.
So does it have to be that particular physical anchor, Steve? Can you have a different number? Can you have a different hand gesture or a different anchor, physical anchor?
Absolutely. It's very flexible. You can do anything you want. For example, sometimes I work with actors who, rather than wanting dating confidence, they just want confidence to do the next audition really well. Or once they're in the movie, they want the confidence to really pull it off and to make it look realistic and so forth. So I like to sometimes give people subtle anchors they can use. Now, you can use any anchor that you want to use. It doesn't have to be the OK sign. You don't have to say the word power. Any motion and sound combination will work. It's best to have a motion and a sound. And let me give you some examples that some actors that I've worked with have used in the past, and these are more subtle. These you can walk into a nightclub or anywhere else and do them, and nobody will notice that you're doing them. I mean, let's face it, if you're making the OK sign and saying the word power, you might draw a little attention to yourself if you're doing it after you've already walked in somewhere. So one of the techniques that you can use is touching your forehead. Now, make it as specific as possible. Touching your forehead with your right index finger, right in the center of your forehead, right above your eyebrows, between your eyebrows, yet 2 inches above. That's exact. Now, it doesn't have to be right there. It doesn't have to be your index finger, but it has to be exact for you. Maybe you want to use your ring finger or your pinky. Maybe you want to touch your right eyebrow instead of between your eyebrows. As long as you make it exact and as long as you remember what it was, and as long as you do it the same way when you're installing it and when you're firing it off. Also, to answer your other question, it doesn't matter how many anchors you stack. You can just use one, or you can stack 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 or 20. It doesn't matter. I think the ideal number, however, would be 5.
So how frequently should a guy install it? In other words, is there like a certain zone that he should be in to make these the most effective?
Okay, well, let's say you're, quote-unquote, a normal dater, and you're going out every Friday and Saturday night. And every time you go out Friday night, you walk into a new club and you fire it off. You fire off the anchor, and you go ahead and anchor yourself to that power and that motivation. And let's say you go in 5 clubs Friday and 5 clubs Saturday. Well, that's a pretty, although it's maybe normal, that's a pretty rigorous pace, and that's a lot of usage of this anchor. By the time you get through club number 10, you have 5 Friday and 5 Saturday, you have probably wiped it out. You probably need to reinstall it at that point. So I would say either once a week or every 10 times you use it. Either once a week or every 10 times you use it, you reinstall the anchor to make it fresh. Just like tuning a guitar or charging a battery, you reinstall it.
Steve, we all know those guys that can go out and they can pick up, almost any attractive woman out there. We've all seen our friends who maybe aren't that much to look at, or they're broke or unsuccessful, maybe living on mom's couch, but they still approach and they go out with beautiful women. Can a guy actually fake his confidence? Like the saying goes, can you fake it till you make it?
Carlos, that is an outstanding question, and yes, certainly I think that someone can fake confidence. Now, interestingly enough, if we look at behaviorist psychology, looking back to Watson and B.F. Skinner and the behavioral psychologists who bring us this behaviorist point of view, if we look at that, then what we're going to find is that initially this person may not have been confident at all because he may have just gone into a situation and thought, oh, my goodness, this will never work out. But somehow, through luck or through trying or just going in there and doing or taking the Forrest Gump approach, which I love, which, Forrest Gump was successful because he didn't know he wasn't supposed to be successful. So he walked in all these situations and just made it happen. So whatever approach they took, they got there. They've got a very beautiful woman, even though they're broke or unattractive or whatever. That serves for them as reinforcement. So however they got there, they're reinforced by being there. So the odds of them having another attractive girlfriend increase exponentially because they're already there. They've already validated it to themselves because they're seeing the world, seeing them with this beautiful woman, and it starts to make sense. Their subconscious mind starts to think, wait a minute, this is where I belong. I belong here because I am here, so this is just a normal place, and if this beautiful girlfriend goes, I get another beautiful girlfriend because that's what I do, even if I'm broke or unattractive or what have you. So what I'd like to do is look at this from a point of view of saying that the guy got there by faking his confidence. Let's take a look at that scenario. So once he's there, he's there, and he's probably going to stay there because once you have the nice house, your next house isn't going to be a shack. You're going to want to stay in the nice house. Once you have a luxury car, your next car is going to be a luxury car because you want to stay where you are. People don't want to go back. They want to go forward or at least stay where they are. So the guy got himself there somehow. Let's look at this from the possibility of him getting there by faking his confidence, and let's see how that would have played out. So if this person initially shows up to a dating situation, let's paint this guy as the biggest loser in the world. He's and he's the biggest loser in the world not because of what he looks like or his lack of money or anything, just because of how he feels inside. Biggest loser in the world. But he walked into a situation and he faked it and he made it. He pulled it off. He somehow faked all his confidence and he got this beautiful woman. And I want to analyze his journey so that we can gain something from this, just to show that anyone can do this. Okay, so here is the way that I feel this could be done from a hypnotherapy point of view. This guy who's a quote-unquote loser getting the beautiful woman. So let's look at it from that point of view. The guy has to, first of all, convince himself that he's worthy. Now, this is, believe it or not, the entire task in itself, because once we are convinced that we are something, once we're thoroughly convinced, so is the world. Once I believe that I'm the best person at any particular thing, so does everyone else. Why? Because they see me seeing myself in that situation. Everything about me suddenly becomes from the point of view of the person who's the greatest at whatever. Muhammad Ali was the greatest boxer in the world. A lot of it had to do with self-conditioning. He was self-conditioning himself. He was hypnotizing himself. He was saying to the world, I am the greatest. Well, he became the greatest. He believed that, and it became his reality. Cassius Clay became Muhammad Ali, the greatest boxer in the world, because of his self-talk, telling himself and telling the world that he was the greatest. So that's what this person, this quote-unquote loser, has to do to get himself into the position where he has the beautiful woman.
Steve, how specifically would he do that, though?
Well, what I suggest when somebody's in that situation, we'll call it the loser situation, and they can do that using the technique I already mentioned, but they also have to convince the world that they are that person. And here's where anchoring gets interesting. So let's say, for example, the guy has anchored himself. He's used that technique ahead of time and anchored himself by using the anchoring technique for confidence. Okay, so we're not talking about being motivated or creative or anchoring any of those things, which we can. We're talking about anchoring confidence, as we've already discussed. He's done that before he's gone to the nightclub, before he's begun his new life as a non-loser, when he's still girlfriendless and still broke and unattractive and so forth, and feeling all of those things. He's anchored himself to confidence. This is where anchoring gets really interesting. So he's anchored himself to believe that he's confident, but now he has to convince others. And we're still talking about a guy who's faking it till he makes it, the quote-unquote loser guy who's faking it till he makes it. So he walks in there. Now he's faced with all these people. He feels inside confident, and he's going to act that way, but we're still dealing with a person who is, can't even perhaps afford to buy the lady a drink, and he's not attractive enough to even get her attention. So what does it matter that he's confident? Well, I'll tell you what it matters. It's going to put him in the limelight. He's going to go over there anyway, and he's going to start talking to her because he's still faking it, remember? He doesn't realize that it's not going to work, or he's putting that aside. In either case, it's going to work. What he needs to do next in his faking it mode is anchor the female to believing that he is very attractive. Now, you may think, how in the world is this guy going to convince her? I know he feels good about himself. I know he's right in front of her. I know he's acting confident, but come on. He's gonna convince her that he's attractive now? I mean, what, he's going to put on a mask? Well, no. What he can do then is anchor her to believing that he's attractive by standing in front of her and saying the word attractive every now and then in a sentence. And while he's doing that, he can touch part of his body. Typically, he wants to touch the solar plexus area or anywhere within a 1-foot radius of that. So, for example, from the bottom of his neck, where a necktie would be tied, to about his belly button, and from his left side to his right side. So there's kind of a cross on his chest there. And that's approximately a 1-foot radius. He can touch anywhere in there while he's saying the word that he wants her to anchor to him. Let me give you a very specific example to show you how this works. Let's say our loser guy who's anchored himself to confidence and walked in there and he's in front of the girl. He's still not looking attractive. He wants to then anchor her, take it a step further, just faking it till you make it guy, wants to take it a step further and have her believe that he's attractive. He would find a reason to use the word attractive in a sentence as often as he can, and each time he does that, he would touch that area within the 1-foot radius of his solar plexus. So he's talking with her and he's saying, you know, I really enjoy hanging around attractive people. And while he's saying the word attractive, he's touching that area. Now notice the important part. He's not talking about himself. He's not saying, I am attractive, and touching himself there. He's using the word attractive, and while he says that word, he's touching that area. So he is anchoring her to believe that he has those attributes, just like he anchored himself to feeling confident when he does something, makes the okay sign, says the word power, or whatever he does. He's anchored himself that when he does that, he will feel powerful. Now he's anchoring her so that when she hears that word, she'll associate it with him.
Now, why in the world would that work, Steve?
Okay, great question. This may sound a little odd at this point. You know, this guy's just talking about the word attractive, and he's touching himself every now and then. So what? What is that going to amount to? Well, what it amounts to in the mind is an association. Just like the association that he used to anchor himself, now he's anchoring her. And this all goes back. I think it's a great time now to bring us back over 100 years to Ivan Pavlov, the behavioral psychologist who mainly worked with animals. He mainly worked with dogs, and he had them smell meat covered with chili powder, and he'd ring a bell at the same time. Well, eventually all he had to do was ring the bell, and they would salivate. Now, there's no reason to salivate when you hear a bell unless it's been linked to something that makes you salivate. Just like when you see police lights in your rearview mirror, well, you may not be getting pulled over at that point. But if you have ever been pulled over, or if you even understand anything about the concept of being pulled over by the police, your heart rate will go up, your respiration will go up, everything will elevate physiologically about your body because you're on heightened alert because this may be trouble. So just as anchoring happens in that situation, the red lights mean trouble. It's also happening in this situation. When you're saying the word attractive and touching that area, you are then going to mean attractive. Why? Because it's the same thing as pointing a big finger to yourself every time you say the word attractive, but you're doing it under the radar. You're slipping it in there because you're talking about somebody else being attractive. Let me give you a few other sentence examples. You can say, wow, that couple over there is very attractive. While you're saying the word attractive, you're touching that part of yourself. You're saying the word attractive and touching yourself. You're anchoring her to you to believe that you're attractive, just like you are anchored to get concerned when you see the police lights in the rearview mirror. Another example would be, wow, that's a very attractive dress you have there. Now make sure when you say that one, you're only touching that part of your body while you're saying attractive. You don't want to anchor her to believe that you are somehow related to an attractive dress. So we get into a very technical aspect of it there, which is you're only touching that area. You're only touching that area on yourself when you're saying the word. Before I say the word attractive, I'm not touching that area. While I'm saying the word attractive, I am touching that area. And as soon as I finish saying the word attractive, I am no longer touching that area. I'm only anchoring that word to myself. So what we see then is a progression. We see a guy who didn't feel good about himself in the dating arena. So we've taken him and shown him how to anchor himself to confidence that he has in other areas, bring that into the dating arena. walk over to the woman he wants to talk to, still being the same person, still looking the same, and still being broke or whatever it is that makes him a quote-unquote loser. Nothing's changed about him except what's inside his head, which makes all the difference. But he's there. Now he has to continue with his fake it till you make it approach by anchoring her to really believing that he has certain attributes. And it could be anything. It could be confident, it could be motivated, it could be wealthy, whatever he wants her to believe about him. All he has to do is anchor, in the way I've told you, anchor her to believing that he has those attributes. Then what happens is, now keep in mind, I believe that dating is a numbers game, and I don't believe that any technique is foolproof. I believe that you're going to strike out a certain number of times. It's just going to happen. So this is not a guaranteed technique that, yes, if you do this, you'll walk in, you'll have the woman, and she will be your zombie. That's not how hypnosis works at all. It's a tool belt, and we're giving tools just like with anything else. Certain tools work in situations. Not all tools work every time, and not all tools work as well as they eventually will with a little bit of practice once you develop more skill using those tools. But eventually, if this person keeps using these techniques, what will happen is he will have a very, very large amount of numbers in his cell phone, for example, if he's collecting numbers in his cell phone, because these ladies will start responding. He'll have two things. First of all, he will have a higher percentage of success the more often he uses the techniques, because he's getting better. The learning curve happens. It's going to be a slow takeoff sometimes. But once he gets there, he's going to have a higher percentage of success when he goes out and tries this. Also, if he increases the volume, the number of women he's approaching, that's also going to improve his numbers. So over time and with continued high volume, he is going to find that he is going to have a lot of beautiful women to choose from. Now, that is going to take this guy who's probably still unattractive and probably still broke or whatever situation he had, that probably hasn't changed for him. But over the course of a few weeks, his life has turned around completely. Subconsciously, that does something to somebody. Mm-hmm. It's like when, what's that movie with Eddie Murphy where Brewster's Millions, was it? Where he was broke and then he inherited $1 million or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That serves as evidence to the subconscious mind that, wait a minute, I must be a millionaire or a billionaire or whatever he was. He actually was a billionaire, but he started feeling more like he deserved that because he was seeing the evidence. He was seeing people treat him a certain way and so forth. So he started feeling like he was a person who deserved respect. Deep down inside, he started to transform. That's what happens. That's how people fake it till they make it. They start to see the evidence of being that person. People start to treat them like that person. Okay, he has a beautiful girlfriend. Oh, he has 5 beautiful women. Oh, he has 20 beautiful women who are calling him constantly. He must be an attractive person. There's something, women start thinking that there must be something about this guy that I'm overlooking. There's got to be something because look at all these women. So it escalates and it snowballs and it becomes more powerful over time, and the subconscious mind starts to get feedback from the environment. Wait a minute, I've got 20 beautiful women calling me. I must be attractive. I must be okay. I must be good looking. I must be wonderful. I must be amazing. Eventually he's there. He's solidly there. We've taken this person whose situation has not changed in a few weeks, and we've made him into a powerhouse just by him, quote unquote, faking it till he makes it.
And, Steve, that makes perfect sense in that context, too, seeing how it goes from start to finish. And you've touched on a point that I've talked about quite a bit, and that's that upward spiral, or what you said, the snowball effect. That definitely makes sense, how the fake it till you make it would definitely progress into a very real sense of having that confidence. Oh, and Steve, another one of the things that you touched on there, and I think it's really important because it's one of the things that I've really focused on with guys, is this whole aspect of being very transparent with your approach to women, because women have incredible intuition, incredible instincts, and they're going to see through any of these attempts that some guys make to jam her radar, whatever you want to call that. Now, I have to admit, I was kind of skeptical at first, but now that I'm more familiar with your techniques and I know that you're actually using our natural psychological triggers to help get past some of the defense mechanisms, and it's actually a good idea. It gets us past these initial roadblocks of connection. Because I think a lot of guys have this traditional image of hypnosis being kind of like a parlor trick where you swing a watch in front of them, and you tell your subject you're getting very sleepy.
Right.
Or, the Star Wars movies, the Jedi mind trick. These aren't the droids you're looking for.